Welcome back, everybody. Today we drug home this Clark forklift. Now, I've been wanting my own forklift at my place here for a while. There is one at the farm. It's about 3 miles away. I can use that whenever I want, but I gotta load it on the trailer, bring it here, and then bring it back when I'm done. It'd just be nice to have one here. So this was on a local auction. Kind of bid against a scrap guy for it. There really wasn't a whole lot of interest in it. I gave $500 for it. I think I'm doing all right. They said it's got motor issues. We're going to kind of dive into that today. It is loose. I know that. I checked that. Oil looked pretty decent. As far as other things, I haven't really gotten too much into it. So we'll get it opened up. I already grabbed a fresh battery there on the trailer. We'll get that put in and see what it wants to do. This is an old enough lift. It doesn't have where the whole seat goes forward because the steering column doesn't move on these. So you got two side covers. The seat does go forward, but it's not all one piece like the newer style forklifts are. All right, there it is. It's a little 4-cylinder Waukesha from what I can find. It's propane. I don't know if we're going to stick with the propane. We'll kind of see how things go. I honestly have better luck with gasoline, especially since this might spend some time outside, and propane doesn't necessarily like to start well outside when they're cold. But let's jump into this. I'm going to throw a battery in. I can already see we're going to have some wiring issues. There's a bunch of stuff unplugged. A lot of butt splices. There's a butt splice there on the same wire. If you follow that down, there's another butt splice right there. This one's missing the rest of it. I see we get up into here. That wire up in there has no insulation left on it. Hopefully we don't start a fire when we hook a battery up to this thing. Well, this battery doesn't quite fit, but we're gonna make it work. So if you look, it's just ground here. If you come over to the positive side, they have one wire here. They have another one that's off to the side here that doesn't look like it's been used in a long time. We'll kind of leave that folded back like they had it. This red wire here, we follow that down, comes right to the top side of this alternator here. And from there, there's one wire going back to the alternator for reference. And then you got another wire coming back here. Now I assume this is supposed to be your keyed wire, your hot ignition. I don't do this. This bothers me right here, because if this connection gets faulty, instead of just not having a no charging issue, you're going to have a no start issue. So I like to run this wire all the way back to the battery whenever I can. People do this because it's cheap and easy, but that doesn't make it right. Over at the key here, nothing at all. And I'm not honestly that surprised. Like I said, a lot of this wiring looks quite crude, and if we get up under here, there's a lot of splicing that's been going on. A lot of this is probably going to have to be redone. Not a big deal. Old enough forklift, really it doesn't need a whole lot. So I traced the solenoid wire, the wire that tells the solenoid to engage the starter back, and it's no wonder we didn't get anything on the key. A lot of corrosion going on there. This is all going to have to be redone. For now, I'm just going to cut it back a ways, splice into this, and we'll run another battery or another wire over to the battery, and we can kind of hold it on there just for testing purposes. As for this other stuff in here, it looks like, from what I've seen so far, that they bypass the original harness, because there's a lot of wires running parallel to the original harness, including the starter wire was. But there's another one down here that's running parallel with the original harness. So I think they basically considered the original harness null and void. And if you look down here, right on the end of my finger, there's a bunch of cut original wires down there. Not the end of the world. Like I said, I'll probably just actually delete this so that when you go and look in there, you're not trying to hunt down what's what. We'll clean it up But for now, we need to make sure this is a viable candidate and we can get this to start. Well, back in the shed here, just going through my electrical stuff. I thought I had some of the cheaper style butt connectors that weren't the heat shrink and solder style, but all I'm finding is those. I don't like using these for temporary stuff, but all of these are just eyelets and that. I suppose we'll have to grab this, throw that back there, and back out we go. Okay, so I got my roll of wire out. I crimped to that other wire, but no matter how far I seemed to cut it back, I kept running into basically copper that's deteriorating. It's all green. Basically the wire's shot. This is, like I said, this is testing purposes. So let's see. I'm just going to touch the battery here and see what happens. Well, that's good. We got a starter at least. So next we're going to move on to ignition. For ease of access purposes, I did go ahead and just make a whole new wire. That's the old one there. We'll just leave the key off. It shouldn't affect anything. We'll run this other end back to the positive side of the battery. That should feed positive side of the coil here. Negative here is completed by your points. So should be plenty good. I'm going to pop this cap off just to kind of see what everything looks like in there. One thing I will note, it sure would have been nice to have like alligator clip wires for that, but this is one of those things where use what you have on hand. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look terrible. There's not much of a contact surface left on the top of that cap. Looks like that broke off at one time. We will see what it does. So upon further inspection of this cap, there's supposed to be, I believe it's graphite in the center of this that protrudes out. You can see where it's been wearing on the brass. I don't know if that's going to work or not. We're going to have to try it today because it's all we have on hand without making a trip to the parts store. Okay, with everything back together, let's go ahead and do a spark test. There is spark, but it's very, very weak. I can barely just see it. Okay, after cleaning the grease off of here, running through the points once again, just touching them up again, and then I did clean the inside of that graphite on that cap. I do have a decent spark now. It's nothing to brag about, but we are getting somewhere, at least without throwing new parts at it. And now we need to go get a new battery. I could just see it here on the camera. Hopefully you guys could see that spark too. It's just kind of a yellow spark. It's not really a great blue spark. Hopefully it'll get us to the point where we can at least start this thing. Let's see what it'll do with a little starting fluid. Boy, it wanted to so bad. And we have a liquid propane leak, so we're gonna stop right now. And judging from where that line is iced up, that's where we're leaking from. So initially when we first started this, I did have the tank shut off until I made sure I had spark in that. I just didn't want to be wasting propane shoving it through the engine if we didn't need to. So I did have that off, but since we got it to run just a little bit there on ether, I thought we would crack that tank back open and let it see if it wanted to take off. But that's a no-go. We need to replace this line. Okay guys, went and had a new hose made, turned the propane back on. No leaks so far, everything seems to be good. I think we're good to try another start here. Hopefully this time we can get it to run on propane. I am just going to shoot just a little bit of starting fluid in here just to kind of get it going, and then hopefully the propane will kick in and take over. Alright, coil wires on the battery there. Grab the starter wire here. That's got to be living on propane right now. I didn't spray that much starting fluid in there. Doesn't sound too bad. Got a little bit of blow by coming out of it. It's alright. It's a little smoky. It does still need a tune-up. I think I'm still going to end up throwing a new cap and rotor on to fix that problem.